Every Tuesday, we do bring in live updates and we do take questions. And my name is Rahul Reddy. I'm practicing immigration law from 1995 to right now. It's almost 29 years. Along with me, so business partner, she's been associated with our law firm from 2003 to right now. Emily, there are rumors, mills flying around that a lot of media I see that, oh, they're going to ban everything out. H1B will be banned, L1 will be banned, all non-immigrant visas, working visas will be banned. Is there any truth to it?
There's very little truth to it. There are some things that the Trump administration can do, which we've seen before, but these media outlets are reporting that they're going to completely scrap the entire H1B visa program and that Trump is going to do it. And that's just not something that a president can do by himself. So there's just, it's creating a lot of fear. It's definitely meant to be clickbait, so that people will click on their site and all of that thing. So we want to talk today about how you can determine whether the information you're reading or hearing about is accurate. During the previous Trump administration, practically every Friday afternoon, there was a new update, something that was changing, some new announcement was happening, some new regulation was proposed. And as soon as the announcement would happen, there'd be all kinds of wild rumors and everything would be blown way out of proportion or spoken like it was fact when we didn't have all the information at the time. So we want to make sure that people avoid that and don't take any actions based on your immigration on false information or misinformation. So how do you know if you're reading something on the internet or your friends are talking about it or you see an article, how do you know that it's actually accurate? Do you have any suggestions for how people should be getting their information?
One thing, they need to look into the history of that particular channel when they're reporting it to see what kind of reports they are. Do they do immigration? Do they cover immigration? Do they have any persons who have been practicing immigration law for a while? Or is it something completely random people who have not been a lawyers, have never seen any of these things, just coming and reporting, hey, completely H1B ban, and they don't give any reference where they are getting that information. They just say H1B is going to be banned. It's going to be OPT is going to be for 6 years, and after that people have to leave. I have seen all kinds of those things. So we need to understand these are kind of, they cover movie stars and movie stations, certain other things that people, that don't cover immigration. For example, if you put me to cover a movie star, we don't know a clue about those people. And we report, we are very bad people. And imagine them reporting on immigration law. It's a complex law. We've been in business from 1997, almost 27 years we're in business. Reddy Neumann Brown has been, and we have been consistently reporting from past 6 years. We do bring in live updates. We are going to take questions. We do practice immigration law. We have survived Trump administration at the time Trump was there. We're not telling that Trump is not going to be easy, he's going to give a boon to all the non-immigrant visa people, but at the same time, what we say is that it's that the rumors that are coming out, most of those things are not true. Please follow our channel. We do bring in updates every week, and we do answer the questions. And if there is anything emergency that is coming up, let's say some really bad thing or really good thing is happening, we will come up with a report immediately. To please subscribe and do like us so that other people also can see our channel. Because if you press like button, it gives the metrics which allows other people to watch this channel.
Yeah, and I would just remind people that all of the different government agencies that deal with immigration do have a website. So you want to make sure that it ends in .gov, whatever website you're looking at. And they all have social media as well. And so if you're on social media, if you're on LinkedIn or X, you can follow USCIS, you can follow CBP, you can follow the State Department, so that you do get that updated information. And you can go to their website. Each one will have a newsroom of breaking news or alerts, as you can verify what exactly is happening. Also, the president will have the whitehouse.gov website where he was posting the executive orders previously. So I expect that to be there again. Definitely also sign up for newsletters for reputable immigration law firms, reputable immigration advocacy groups, and you can also sign up for alerts from USCIS. So anytime that they publish a new policy or issue a new rule, you'll get that email notification as well. Definitely following trusted legal professionals who deal with immigration, who are working in it, who are not trying to create fear unnecessarily, who will give you the facts and help guide you on what actions you need to take without blowing things out of proportion and scaring you unnecessarily. And as Rahul said, verify the news outlet that you're looking at. Is it truly a news outlet, or is it more of an entertainment outlet? There are plenty of major news outlets in the US that you can follow, New York Times, CNN, and they are required to report accurate information. Be careful with social media. It's so easy to share incorrect information. And again, these entertainment sites will share things on social media just to get clicks and get more likes. So you just have to really discern what's real versus what's being shared for entertainment purposes or click purposes.
There are some things, birthright citizenship, that may come in immediately effect, but if there is any restrictions that are going to come on, I would say restrictions rather than ban or bar. They will take time for them to issue regulations. They will take time to study and bring it, and we will bring it. We will bring you the news. So they can't, as Emily has pointed out, H1B is a thing that comes out from the Congress. The administration cannot just say, okay, we're going to ban H1B. We're not going to allow all the people who are working on H1B. That's not going to happen. So please be mindful of those things. If any news bulletin that comes in, because I was being disturbed so many times, people calling and panicking mode, H1B is getting over. Not true. That is not true. Anything
Yeah,
else?
and I also want to say that when these announcements happen, you have to realize if it's coming from the government, they're going to use specific language in their announcements that have actual legal definitions for those words. So a perfect example was when the Trump administration was planning a travel ban. And they basically said, we're going to block all immigrants from coming to the United States. Everybody freaked out. There were people outside the US who were spending thousands of dollars to try to get a last minute plane ticket to come into the US because they said they're going to ban all immigrants. Well, when the actual language came out, they were using the term immigrant, meaning people who were applying for the green card at the consulate only. They weren't talking about non-immigrants. They weren't talking about temporary work visa holders. They weren't talking about people who are in the US already or people who are coming on advanced parole. It was a very set, specific language that they used that affected a specific set of people, but everyone blew it out of proportion and thought it applies to everyone, and it created a lot of panic. So just when those announcements come out, take a second and read it, understand that they're using specific language. The word immigrant in normal vernacular, people think it's anyone who's coming to the US from another country. Well, immigrant in the Immigration and Nationality Act is talking about specifically someone who's applying for permanent residence, nothing else. And if we're talking about non-immigrants, that's when we're talking about the temporary visas, the business visas, the work visas, student visas, that sort of thing. So you've got to know what the language that they're using, how it actually applies. And we try to kind of go through all of that when we're having our breaking news videos or when we have an article on our website. We'll boil it down to normal language so that you can understand how exactly it's going to impact you, because it might not impact you at all and you might be needlessly worrying about something.
So please subscribe to our news channel, and also you can subscribe to our Twitter. Emily's Twitter is very active. ImmigrationGirl.com. We have Stephen Brown, who's a business partner, and as his Twitter is very active too, and also Reddy Neumann P.C. If you subscribe to newsletter, if there is something that we think so that it is going to affect the non-immigrant visa people, though, we will inform you immediately. You come You subscribe to this channel, you will get the news. You'll get the news, and you can subscribe to our newsletter too. Anything else, Emily?
Nope. I think we can move on to questions.
Ramesh Patil is asking this question. Any chance next year domestic visa stamping? It's a little bit doubtful right now, especially with the new administration coming. We're not sure if this administration is in favor of domestic visa stamping as compared to the last administration. So we'll have to watch and see if they will do it, though. But yeah, there are some arguments that can be made at this point of time that the Trump administration may bring in, but there are some arguments that can be made against it. For example, he is forming called this DOGE by Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. They're trying to reduce the bureaucracies. Definitely, this U.S. stamping do allow the reduction of the bureaucracies and reduction of the consulate staff outside, because for them to house a consulate staff outside the country, it costs 3 times than that of hosting them in USA, though. So they may reduce it, but at the same time, we see Stephen Miller, the immigration advisor for the Trump administration. He may want everybody to go outside the country and see if they are being allowed to come in. So we'll have to see as we go on. Is it Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, or is it going to be Stephen Miller who's going to win it? But we will let you know if there is an updates coming on the domestic stamping.
VU says, my AP was approved a few months ago with a 5-year validity, but a second AP was denied because I already have a valid AP. Will that denial create any problems with my existing AP? No, not at all. If the reason for the denial is simply because you already were issued a valid AP that has not expired and is not expiring in the near future, having that denial of the second AP has no impact on the validity of your first AP.
Bahama Trip has this question. She's traveling to Bahama. Her visa is expiring in May. It seems that it is on H4 visa. I can judge it. Any chance I will get an I-94 based on my spouse H1B expiration date? I'm assuming that your husband's expiration date is further than that of May of 2025. Yes, you will have to show the H1B approval of your husband. You have to request the I-94 for the H4 until the expiration of your husband. Sometimes they only give it until May. Most of the times they give it based on your husband's H1B extension.
Sri Vijay says, I'm filing the H1B extension with the H4 and H4 EAD concurrently in a week and planning to do premium processing. Is it too late to get an approval for the H4 EAD? If you're planning to file next week, no, it's definitely not too late. I would not delay it any beyond that. As of now, most of the time when you file H1, H4, and H4 EAD together in premium processing, we are still seeing all 3 approved together. But just be aware that that settlement agreement does expire in January. We don't know if it will be extended. So it's possible that the government may go back to separating the H4 and H4 EAD from the H1B. And it's also possible at some point there may be a suspension of premium processing by the Trump administration. We did see that a number of times, both for H1Bs and I-140s during the prior administration. Hard to say whether those were simply due to COVID or due to other more nefarious purposes of purposely trying to delay things for people. But definitely the sooner the better to get those filed.
1 second. Is it easy to get stamping in Egypt? We are recommending people do not go to these odd countries and getting stamping. There are a lot of people who found appointments in Vietnam and then went there. The consulate there slowed down issuing the passports back, where it took about 4 to 6 weeks for them to issue the passports back. So they are stuck there in Vietnam for that long period of time. Now Mexico and Canada are quite different. They're used to the third country nationals. So if you do not belong to Egypt and you want to go to Egypt, we advise you do not go to Egypt, because the consulate there are not familiar with the third country nationals coming in there.
Abhishek says, should I go to India and get the visa stamping now before January 20th? I have my H1B done in premium. I have the visa slot booked for January 3rd. Or is it better to not travel? Because I don't really need to travel right now, but there's a possibility I might need to travel in 2026. It's hard to say because you're so close to that January 20th date. That what if you go and you have your visa interview on January 3rd and you get a 221G and you're delayed and you don't get your visa back by January 20th to be able to travel back. Those things do happen. I don't have enough information about your company, your job, what is the likelihood that you might get stuck and delayed. So it might be cutting it a little bit too close right now.
A question with regards to the PERM and I-140, whether there is going to be a lot of delay in processing. This question is coming from Madhusudan as the Trump administration is coming. It's going to be hard to. What do you feel, Emily? Because I feel that there is Stephen Miller and then there is Vivek Ramaswamy there. Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are there to cut the bureaucracies here. They want to eliminate some of the departments. They want to cut down the bureaucracies, make it more digital friendly, and reduce the amount of money that the federal government is spending on these things, and fasten up the process. While Stephen Miller definitely is more of anti-immigration stance. He wants to do more scrutiny, want to have more delay coming up on the things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Trump is going to follow Stephen Miller. It's quite clear from his platform what he's intending to do when it comes to immigration. Yes, he's talking about the southern border a lot and the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants, but he also specifically says we will bring back the travel ban. There were H&L travel bans. He specifically says we're going to bring back Buy American, Hire American. That was a restriction on H1B visas. He specifically says we're going to extreme vet everyone to make sure that we're not letting the wrong people in. So yes, we might have people trying to make things more efficient, but whenever it comes to immigration, and the Trump administration is going to say national security is more important than government efficiency. So I'm not expecting much in terms of improvement of USCIS, of the State Department, of the Labor Department, even though we've got this Department of Government.
Can you explain more about this travel ban? What does that mean? The people who are working in United States cannot work here? Or how does the travel ban work for the non-immigrant visas of H1Bs?
Yeah, so the good thing is the president does not have the power to just say, we're not going to allow people to work on H1Bs, or we're not going to allow people to work on Ls. The power to restrict immigration is limited to a travel ban. So it basically means that he could, on day one, say, I'm not going to let the following people into this country. And it can be a blanket, nobody that's coming in on a non-immigrant visa, or it could be the immigrant visa, which he did before. He also had a specific H&L travel ban before. So what that looked like was anyone who was in the U.S. was fine. You could work, you could file your extension, you could file your amendment. Those were being processed. You could file your change of status in the lottery. The lottery was conducted normally. But if you had to leave the U.S., if you had a family emergency, if you had a death in the family, an important marriage, if you went outside the U.S., you could not come back because you were not allowed to enter the U.S. They were not issuing visas if you needed a new visa stamp to re-enter. There were some exceptions. So you have to look at the presidential proclamation. It's going to be listed on whitehouse.gov, and it will, again, specify in very certain language who exactly it applies to. And then they will usually provide some sort of exception. And during that time, it was if you were super important to your company, if there was a important reason that you had to be back in the U.S., they would process your visa by you submitting a request for an exemption from the presidential proclamation. So people could still work on H and L. It was the travel that was the big problem, because there was many people that were not able to get back to the U.S. We had situations where L2 and H4 spouses and kids were here in the U.S. and their H1B holder was stuck outside the U.S. And then COVID happened, and then people were really stuck because of vaccine. You had to get a vaccine to be able to come back. It was definitely a big mess.
What if I have a visa and I travel to India, and what happened at that point of time in the travel ban?
So if I recall, I'm trying to remember, I think that people that already had the visa could come in.
They were allowed.
You could not get a new visa stamp.
That's right. Yeah,
if I recall.
that's right, ma'am. That's right, Emily. That it was only the visas, people who are trying to get the visas, but who already have the visas, were allowed to come into the United States at that point of time.
Yeah. Another couple of people have had asked questions about the medical exam policy that was just updated today. So if you missed it, USCIS issued an alert stating they're changing their policy on requiring the medical exam when you're filing your 485. So starting yesterday, I guess this was an announcement yesterday. When you file your 485, you must include the medical exam with that initial packet, or they can reject the whole filing.
What if my wife is pregnant and they can't complete all the vaccines? What's the process for it, Emily?
Yeah, so you still do the medical exam. So that doesn't give you an excuse not to submit it, but the doctor will not do parts of the exam that are not medically, needed if she's pregnant. So they won't require certain vaccines, or they won't do certain parts of the exam. And they will note on there the medical reason why they could not complete the exam fully. So you submit the exam, and then later you'll get a request for evidence asking for the updated exam once you've delivered the baby and can complete that process. So it's not that big of a deal. It's a little bit extra hassle, so you have to do it twice. But the overall, the policy makes sense, because you have to remember that for medicals that were completed by November 2023, those do not expire anymore. So the old policy was the medical exam expires in 2 years. And so people were saying, well, if USCIS is going to take 4 years to process my case, why bother submitting the medical when it's just going to expire and I'm going to have to do it again, which made total sense. And then they also, because of COVID and there were difficulty getting doctor appointments and things like that, they also said you don't need to submit the medical at the time of filing. But now, because the medical is valid indefinitely, it's not going to expire, they want you to submit it with the 485 so they don't have to send an RFE for it later. So it should be more efficient. But it does provide a little bit of extra hassle at the time of filing.
Emily, I want to discuss with you one of the questions which Ram Charan has raised, and I want to tell my opinion, and then of course you can counter it. He's asking the question, does the staff in the embassies change with the new government? Why does there is extra scrutiny increases suddenly when the government changes? No, the staff doesn't change immediately. Even if there is any changes in the staff, it will be just a routine staff changes which people go through normally. There are transfers from one consulate to another consulate, one country to another country, but we don't see a drastic change in the staff of the US embassies. However, the consulates may get instructions from top brass, or they may get direct instructions, they may get an indirect indication to have more scrutiny. Like if the President of the America says that we are going to do more scrutiny, then the employee, even though he may or may not get any written instruction, the down to the employee may actually feel obligated to follow the directions of the President of the United States of America. Yes, when the Trump administration does come in previously, after the Obama administration went out, yes, we have seen a lot more scrutiny in the visa stampings, in visa approvals, especially the USCIS stopped issuing the premium processing. They've done a lot of different things in the Trump administration though. Now it's Some things Trump administration and the higher authorities have instructed. Some things the employees have by themselves reinvented the wheel to obstruct the things. Now, this time, definitely the Trump administration, the main agenda for him was anti-immigration. Now, at the time of Trump 1.0, his main agenda definitely was not immigration alone. There are other things, but right now, immigration is his main agenda. Now, even though that the non-immigrant visas that normally our audiences are, which is not the top priority as compared to the southern border, where illegal people are coming into the United States, or those people who are applying for fake asylum people, those are their priorities. Definitely, H1Bs are not. But still, there will be some restrictions, there will be some scrutiny, more scrutiny in the consulate, even though there are not many staff changes. What do you say, Emily?
Yeah, I think it is just a change in mindset that trickles down from the top. And so yes, there are probably going to be some specific instructions, but a lot of it is just going to be a mindset shift based on the new administration and what their priorities are. Satish says, with this new update on the I-693 medical exam, if I already submitted it in January for a pending AOS, will it expire after 2 years like it did before? So it depends on when the doctor signed the medical exam. If you got it done after November 2023, then it is already valid indefinitely. It doesn't expire. But if you got it done before November but submitted it in January, it's based on when the doctor signed it, and in that situation, they're only valid for 2 years.
Question asked here by Atul: can the Trump administration rescind the green cards of excessive abused EB1C cases? First of all, we don't agree that there is an excessive abuse in the EB1C cases. At least our law firm does not. But let's assume that Trump administration thinks so. That I don't think so. That's on the menu at all. These are all the things that will be challenged in the court. He cannot unilaterally do it because there is the Congress that passed the legislation for EB1C. He can't just, administration cannot just cancel it. Now, if there is any fraud involved, for example, if the gentleman has never worked for the company and he claimed that he worked for the company and then he got the EB1C, yes, they can revoke the green card. But if he has worked and there is some where this administration thinks so should not have been approved, no, they're not going to go for the cancellation of the green card or revocation of the green card. You need to understand the Trump administration has a lot of things to do in the immigration. The number one thing is to stop almost 1 million people coming into illegally in the United States almost every year from the southern border. That will be the number one priority for him. Now, you also need to understand that there are a lot of people who come into this country and they say that they are getting, the government there is prosecuting them, even if it's not. Like, for example, people from Telugu states come and say, hey, Modi government is coming and prosecuting me. Even some of them, not most of them don't, but some of them. When they tell these kind of lies also, there is no way to verify that information. And they do get an employment authorization and political asylum. And 90% of these people, they don't even show up for the hearing in front of the judge because they just claim their EAD and they keep their EAD for a couple of years. Trump wants to restrict all those people, though. So his priorities are not for EB1C, at least at this point of time. Yes, going forward, he may do some more restriction on EB1C, but canceling revoking the already given green cards is very unlikely. I don't think so it's going to happen.
Madhu Sudan says, what are the effects we're going to have on PERM and I-140 processing during a second Trump administration? Well, during the first Trump administration, we really didn't see any impact on the PERM process. They did not change the adjudication. They did not audit more cases. And I expect that to be the same this time around. So our biggest hurdle right now with PERM is just the long processing time, which really got long under the Biden administration, not the Trump administration. I don't see that getting better anytime soon, so PERM is likely to stay the same. On the I-140 side, if it's a PERM-based I-140, I don't think there's going to be much change there as well. It's more going to be on the NIW, the EB-1A, I-140s, where the self-petition, where we had a lot of Biden policies that opened it up, made it available to more people, made it easier for people in STEM to get to qualify under those categories. We might see those policies be restricted, but we might not, because we are, with the Trump administration, we're in a war for talent. We're in a war with China for talent. So they may want to keep people that do AI, people that do STEM, keep promoting that to bring in the best and the brightest into the U.S. and not restrict that particular aspect of employment-based immigration.
Question coming with regards to, is it easier to get a emergency advance parole, or is it easier to expedite the advance parole because I want to go for my parents' surgery? Definitely emergency advance parole is very good, high chances of success, rather than expediting the already filed advance parole application. And please note that emergency advance parole may only be given for a period of 1 month and may sometimes be given only for up to 3 months. So it will definitely not be 5-year period though.
Sauce says, any thoughts on impacts to STEM OPT under the new administration? Do you think Elon Musk will be helpful here? I think that there's definitely a possibility that the Trump administration plans to restrict STEM OPT, possibly even eliminate it. The good news is that it has to be done through the regulatory process. So he can't just on day one say no more STEM OPT. He has to actually propose a regulation that would eliminate it, wait for notice and comment, review those notice and comment, and then issue a final regulation that'll then take effect. So doing that regulatory process is probably going to take at least a year or two, if they even finalize it, because that was also the plan with the H4 EAD previously, and that regulation did not ever get proposed. I think we could see more ICE enforcement. So with the STEM OPT and the 983 training plan, there's already provisions for ICE to do site visits to make sure employers are actually complying with those training plans. So he could increase the number of site visits, increase those compliance checks to make sure that people are actually doing the training plan. Will Elon Musk be helpful here? Again, I don't know. I think his purpose is government efficiency, streamlining processes, reducing the number of employees of the federal government, reducing the budgets of all these different agencies. I don't think he's going to be advising Trump on immigration. I think that's going to be Stephen Miller, and he thinks that no president has the power to issue employment authorization without Congress.
One question which is coming with regards to the merit-based green card applications, though, that has to go to the Congress. So it will not go through. It will not go through. It cannot be done by the administration merit-based. Will it be an advantage for the people, for those people who are in the pipeline of adjustment of status, who already filed the adjustment of status? Will it affect those people? It's very unlikely. Right now, the Congress is not in the Congress is definitely not in favor of, the Congress is not willing to go through this new changes from Trump, because if in the Senate it requires 60 votes. They do not have 60 votes. They have either 54 votes, so they still need 5 or 6 votes still from the Democratic Party. I don't think so they will allow. Emily, one thing that is there where people need to understand, as I said, is that southern border, political asylum, but there are also different kinds of EADs, though. When you look into the category, there is an A3, which is for refugee. They give employment authorization, which we see, and we also see paroled refugee, which is called A4, asylee A5, and we have N8, N9, I don't know what that is. We have Micronesia. These are all different kinds of employment authorization. We have people for deferred enforcement departure. That is for the DACA kids, which may be in problem. So there are a lot of people who get an employment authorization. H1B is not on the top of their menu, guys. L1 is not on the top of the menu. There are people, for example, some people affected by earthquakes in Nepal. They're still getting the employment authorization document right now. There are people that happened 10 years ago. There are some people in South American country that got affected with the floods, and even they are getting employment authorization. Floods are gone, and now it's drought there, but still they're getting the employment authorization. And they want to limit those. They want to limit those. They want to limit those people who are getting employment authorization through those things. And believe me, there are millions of people. H1Bs are only maybe 300, 400,000 people. But when you look into the people who are not, some of them are, most of these people are not even legally present in this country. They are getting the employment authorization. They are continuously extending their employment authorization based on the laws that are there right now. So this administration want to limit those people more. They should be more fearful, guys. And this administration will give priority to restrict those employment authorization that is on their top of priority.
Music says, what are the major and minor H-1B reforms that could be implemented during the Trump administration, and will they take effect in 2025 or 2026? So we have a regulation that the Biden administration proposed that only part of it got finalized that dealt with the lottery, but the other half of it was recently submitted to the OMB for final approval. So it's possible that Biden might finalize that regulation. That regulation kind of modified the definition of specialty occupation. So it would make it more difficult for people with a generic business administration degree to qualify for the H-1B. But at the same time, it opened up the ability for entrepreneurs to sponsor themselves on an H-1B. And still be able to do some of the non-qualifying or non-specialty occupation work, even though they're sponsoring themselves. So that might happen this month, and we might see that final regulation to take effect in early 2025. As far as the Trump administration, I think we might see a proposal to change the lottery to a wage-based lottery, to where the visas go in order of the highest wages being offered. I think we might see more likely just changes in adjudication. I would expect he's going to go back to eliminating the deference memo, which means that every petition is going to be looked at with fresh eyes, regardless of how many approvals you've gotten before for the exact same job in the exact same company. That really caused a lot of more RFEs and many more denials than we ever saw before. The denial rate went from like 3% to 30% just due to that. So I think that's probably a bigger issue. And then if they want to change again how the prevailing wages are calculated, he did issue a final regulation, and it was actually implemented, that required the prevailing wages to be calculated differently, and we had to really use a level 2 or level 3 wage, became the level 1 wage. That took about 2 months, where they issued all these prevailing wages before it got blocked by a court, and then we had to go back and get all new prevailing wages. So those are, I think, the things that might be on tap in terms of H-1B.
Question with regards to, how do we know if they will start decoupling? That means that they are not going to approve H1 and H4 and EAD together. Well, we do have daily conference call. We do have every Tuesday. We do get a lot of reports from people. We do file H1 and H4 and EAD very frequently. So we do get the results. When we do get the results, then we will find out if they are going to approve them together or they are not going to approve together. So we will inform once as January 20th passes. I think so the settlement is until January 18th, is that right, Emily? After that, we will see if they are going to follow the directions or not, and we will inform you in this channel. That's the reason why we bring these updates every week. And if there is any special updates, we do bring in. So if you keep tuning on to this one, we will update you if the H1 and H4 and EAD are decoupled. Now, there are some ways, guys, even if they decouple, where people can go to Mexico and come back if their current I-94 is still valid and their supposed H1B is approved. They can still go outside the country and come back. There are ways around it where you can extend the EAD by 180 to up to 540 days. And we'll teach all those techniques if they decouple it.
Sandeep says, we have visa stamping appointments for January 20th and 30th. They're both full-time employees. Should we reconsider our travel plans? Yes, I think you have to weigh the purpose of your travel. If you're just going for vacation and to get the visa stamp, I would reconsider. If you're going because there's an important business meeting that you have to be at, or there's a family emergency or something like that, then you've just really got to weigh what is the likelihood of a travel ban being issued while you're outside the country. As I said, it is on the platform to issue travel bans. What we don't know is who it's going to be impacting. They say also in their platform, their goal is to day one seal the border. Are they just talking about the southern border, or are they talking about blocking all immigration? Are they going to block all consulates from issuing visas or not? We just don't know. We know that they've tried to do it before. So that gives enough pause that they're likely to try it again. We just don't know who all it would impact. And I'd hate for anyone to be stuck outside the US when they didn't have to be. So I would definitely think about that long and hard.
Emily, what about the TN visa? It's imposing a lot of restrictions on Canadians and Mexican. And now recently we have seen Canadian Prime Minister and Mexican President came and met Trump in Mar-a-Lago, though.
Yeah, so that is definitely something to watch, because the USMCA, which authorizes the TN visa, has kind of a sunset provision, I believe in 2026, that allows any of the parties to start renegotiating things. And so they're already working on renegotiating things if they're talking about tariffs and trying to get Mexico to help with the southern border issue. And depending on how well those things work or don't work, it could absolutely impact how those negotiations go for renewing the USMCA. So there might be some restrictions there. Shabir says, is there any possibility that an interview will become mandatory for EB1 green cards? Absolutely. He did this before, so I would expect it again. Prior to the Trump administration, the government was waiving a lot of interviews for employment-based cases. They usually would only interview people if they had an immigration violation history or criminal history. Then Trump came in and said, we need extreme vetting. We're going to require every single adjustment of status applicant to be interviewed before we'll issue the green card. That slowed everything down. We saw terrible decisions coming out of the field offices about employment-based immigration because they have no idea. They're so used to family immigration. We still see problems with that. But then COVID happened, and then the interviews were no longer available because no one could come out during COVID. So that kind of led them to start waiving some of the interviews again. And now we're back to pretty much how it was pre-Trump. But yeah, I definitely would expect interviews to become mandatory again for all 485s. We might see fingerprinting again become mandatory, which is what messed everything up for the H4 EADs, because I-539s required fingerprinting. I think all of that's on the table.
Madhusudan is asking the question. His child is 11 months, born in United States, had a passport. The child has already visited India. What are the chances for the Trump administration to revoke birthright citizenship? Absolutely not. I don't think so at all. He never said that he is going to go back. I don't think so. He can, based on the Constitution that I read along. I mean, I cannot imagine the Supreme Court will side with Trump on that one. However, Madhusudan, going forward though, we do expect definitely Trump administration will try to put a ban on birthright citizenship that includes for the legal people also, because on the press statements though, Trump said it's only for, he said for people, kids born to the illegal. But when we look into the Donald Trump website though, it says one of the parents must be a green card holder or US citizen. In your case, Madhusudan, I don't care what your legal status is. Your son is already born. He is done with it. He is a US citizen. There is nothing is going to happen to him. But yeah, for the kids who are going to be born after January 20th, we will have to keep watching what's going to happen. And please keep tuned in. We'll keep on informing you what goes on.
Deepak says, can the Trump administration do any changes on the per country limit or utilize unused green cards to help those countries with the backlog? Not really. So the per country limit was set by Congress in statute, which means only Congress can change it by passing a new law. And when unused green cards were recaptured and utilized, that was also done by Congress. So I think they would expect that that's going to have to go through the legislative process also. What could Trump do, which I don't think he would do, but he could stop counting dependents. The way the statute is actually written, he could reinterpret the language of the statute and it would still be consistent with what the statute says with not counting the dependents. But I think that's something that probably is not going to happen under a Trump administration at this point.
Is EAD-AP combo card still available? Yes and no. They are doing it for some people. They are not giving combo card for some people. Can we work with I-485 EAD application still pending? It's still processing. This question comes from Swapna. If it's an extension and you already have an EAD, let's say it's expired in November 30th, and you file the EAD extension before November 30th, yes, you can continue to work. But if this is the first EAD that you're filing, and you did not get the EAD, you cannot work until your EAD is approved. This is for the 485 EAD we're speaking about.
Satish says, can the travel ban help us get spillovers for the old priority dates to help the dates move faster? Yes, assuming the travel ban is just for immigrant visas at the consulate, which tend to be mostly family-based cases. That's what allowed for the spillover because they were not issuing family-based green cards due to the travel ban. So they went unused. In the following year, they spill over to employment-based. But what if they create some other type of travel ban that restricts employment-based? Or what if they slow down the employment-based process and they can't use all of those extra green cards anyway? So it cuts both ways. So I definitely would not be hoping for a travel ban in an effort to get spillover because they might not, I mean, they might just all go to waste like they did in 2020. We had twice the number of green cards and 80,000 of them went unused.
Can I do multiple jobs on GCEAD? I'm a primary person. Yes, you can. Your EAD allows you to do multiple jobs. Especially we see that in medical profession, people do a lot of different jobs. There are some people who do 3-4 jobs. That's very normal in medical profession. Yes, in IT field also you can.
Srikant says, can the Biden administration issue an executive order to make all priority dates current? I don't think it can be done as an executive
nice
order.
I would love it. I would love it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that'd be great. I don't think it can be done as an executive order. I think it would more likely just be a changed interpretation in the definition of when an immigrant visa is considered to be available. So right now, they look at the number of people in the pipeline and the number of green cards they have for the year, and they set those dates based on how many people they think will use up those green cards, the limited number available. Another way to look at it is Well, on October 1st, 2024, there were green cards available for everybody because 140,000 became available. So why not just make the date current for everybody and let everybody file and then sort it all out later? So there's some argument to be made that that's possible to do, but it would not be through an executive order. It would just be through a modified interpretation of when a green card becomes available.
Well, wishful thinking, of course, they can do EADs for the people who have an I-140 approval. Think of this thing, they still have EADs for the Nepalese people who have earthquake that hit 10 years ago. They still get an employment authorization. Yeah, they can issue a EAD for the people whose I-140 is approved. There are ways if the administration wants to do it, but I don't think so. This administration will do. When I say this administration, I meant to say Trump 2.0 can do it.
Syrian says, my company is starting to think about sending me to the US on an L1 visa. Is now a bad time to do it? How does it look in terms of viability? Well, the next 4 years are going to be rocky for all types of immigrants. We definitely experienced a roller coaster during the prior 4 years of the Trump administration, and L visas were specifically targeted. There was an H&L travel ban. So let's say your company decides to move forward with that. I don't know whether they have a blanket approval or not, or if they're filing an individual petition. Let's say it's an individual petition. They file it with USCIS, they get approved, and then Trump issues an L visa travel ban saying that our economy is not good, or we need to focus on American workers. Therefore, we can't bring in skilled workers from other countries right now. Then you won't be able to get the visa. You won't be able to come into the US. So that's one of the potential very real things that could happen. So it's not that it's a bad time to do it. It's just going to be a little bit of a stressful 4 years if you decide to do it now. But what's the alternative? Waiting for 4 years and then doing it? So you've got to think about what your career path looks like, how your job prospects are at your current location, and if moving to the US is going to provide you better career opportunities, then that might make it worth it to go through all that stress.
Hardy has this question. Does it require for national interest waiver EB2 for a person to have a master's degree or in an alternative bachelor's 5 years experience? None of those are a requirement for NIW. The requirement should be that your work should be in the national interest for them to waive the labor certification. Even if you don't have the master's degree, you could still be eligible for national interest waiver. Even if you don't have 5 years experience, and you can still be eligible for the national interest waiver. Even if you don't have master's degree or bachelor's plus 5 years experience, you could still be eligible for national interest waiver. National interest waiver is a completely different path. Now, there is something called EB2. Now, that requires a master's degree or bachelor's plus 5 years experience. That's completely different than national interest waiver. National interest waiver criteria is completely different. We have made a separate video on the national interest waiver. We would want you to watch that video so that you can get an idea exactly what a national interest waiver is.
Harry Prasad says, what do you think of the RAISE Act or a merit-based system for green cards coming back? Well, if you look at the Trump platform, it is number 6 on his immigration, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion part of the platform. But it has to be done through Congress. So basically, it's word for word, it says Republicans will prioritize merit-based immigration, ensuring those admitted to our country contribute positively to our society and economy and never become a drain on public resources. We will end chain migration and put American workers first. So anytime in his platform, anything has to be done by Congress, he always starts with Republicans will do this. That means Republicans in Congress. So he's going to need a majority in the Senate, 60 votes, which he does not currently have. He would have the majority in the House. So if it's done as the typical legislative process, it's not likely to make it through the Senate unless something unexpected happens and our government, our Congress can actually agree on immigration reform, which they haven't been able to do since 1996. So I don't have high hopes for that. But if they sneak things in through some sort of budget bill where it only requires a simple majority, that's where we could see some kind of reform. And they claim they want to do some sort of merit-based immigration reform.
I will be very doubtful whether that's going to pass through this, especially divided people right now between the Republicans and Democrats to have the merit-based system. Yes, this thing has been floating around for a long period of time in the Trump 1.0, and even previously also we have heard about it, Emily, but it's going to be very hard, very hard. Emily, what about the advance parole? What do you say? Will there be any restrictions on advance parole? What do you say if I'm outside the country, I have an advance parole, should I come before January 20th?
So the travel bans before did not block people from coming in on advance parole. I think the biggest likelihood of how the Trump administration could impact advance parole is to go back to 1 or 2 year approvals and not the 5-year approvals. So maybe it's relatively safe. At the same time, we're basing all of this on what we know Trump did before. He may have a whole nother list of things up his sleeve. He's had 4 years to contemplate how am I going to accomplish the things I want to do in immigration. So he might have different plans this time around. So I can't say for certain that advanced parole, people that have that will be allowed to enter, even if there's a travel ban, but before they were able to.
One of the requirements for the advanced parole is, Emily, you must show a compelling reason for you to go outside the country and come back in. Now, when I was practicing law in 1995, we have to show that somebody, the grandmom is sick, a grandmother is, there's some grandmother or grandparent that is always sick. At least we used to get a fax of those things and show it to the officer to get those things approved. Now, we stopped that practice as we go on. Immigration has become a little bit more liberal, and we have never sent any document to them. We just file an advance parole. Hey, I want to travel in the next 45 days, and then we just file an advance parole and get it. Yeah, there is a chance that the administration may restrict advance parole only for the limited purposes, and they may even restrict it for the time limit. Right now, they're issuing for 5 years for those people who are in adjustment of status. They may limit it only for limited period of time. That can be possible.
Sridhar says, how does an H1B extension beyond the 6-year limit after I-140 approval might be impacted going forward? So the good thing is the continued H1B extensions beyond 6 years based on an approved I-140 is an act of Congress. It was AC 21, American Competitiveness in the 21st Century Act. So I think that it would require an act of Congress to eliminate it. I do vaguely remember towards the end of the Trump administration that they were floating around an idea of limiting how many extensions you could get. But in the most recent regulation that dealt with that back in 2017, it did limit it. So once your priority date becomes current, you can't keep getting those extensions unless you can show you filed your 485 within 1 year of the date becoming current. So I don't know if we'll see any modifications to that since it is something that Congress put forth.
Rohit is asking this question. People who got the GC already, do they have any reason to worry? Just got the green card in a bona fide manner. Absolutely, you don't have to worry about Rohit. I would tell you, Rohit, that don't even come to our channel. Our channel is more for non-immigrant visas. You don't have nothing to fear. But whenever you have any fear, other people are scaring you, just come for a while, just to say hello to me and Emily. You have nothing to fear. You're fine. They cannot rescind your green card. They will not rescind your green card. The only issues that may arise that you may need a lawyer is if you have any criminal things that's not traffic, regular traffic tickets under $500, or if you have any where you are traveling outside the country for more than 6 months, we definitely request that you consult an immigration lawyer before you do that. But otherwise, if you're just living a normal life, sometimes once in a while you get just a speeding ticket, and then you go to your home country and come back within 6 months of a period of time. You can apply for the citizenship online. We are not expecting any problems whatsoever at all for you, Roy.
Well, I think we are out of time for today. Thank you everyone for joining. As we mentioned, please consider subscribing to our newsletter. We send it out every week on Wednesday so that you'll get an update of all the latest things that have been happening. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll get updated whenever we have a new video, and come to our weekly YouTube live. We also have a daily conference call that's free. And so if you join that, you can learn a lot about what people are experiencing and what kind of questions are coming up. And of course, get your questions answered as well. So you can go to rnlawgroup.com to get the information for the daily conference call, as well as to subscribe to our newsletter. We'll see you next Tuesday.
In the conference call, I just want to describe people that it will be live interaction, not answering the questions for the typed answer. It will be answered personally by me or Rebecca or anybody else. So most probably it will be me. So it will answer the question. It will be more interactive there in the live conference call. It's free. It's 30 minutes every day that we do. We're doing this from past 12 years, from 2012 to right now. Every single day, every working day, we do have this free 30 minutes Zoom conference call. Previously, it was